For those of you that are on, thanks for joining. Thanks for bearing with me for a second there. I am Miles English. I am the author of Bogstander Isekai. Just Jess. Is it only Jess is here? Yeah, if you very likely already know that if you're here. This is my yarn closet. For my wife does all this crocheting. I just noticing that in the background there. There you go. There. Now very professional looking office now. Yeah, so how big a book is too big? Will they ever stop growing? That is a question from William. And the answer to that is no. Look, it's really hard to it's not that hard. It's really hard to limit your words, guys. The thing about Bog Standard is that when I was writing it, I told myself that I was gonna do something that's easy to write and like that I wouldn't have to I told myself that like no matter how big or small it was, I would never stress myself out about writing it. And so to me that meant that like if I had a story to tell, that I would really be able to tell it at the pace that I felt more comfortable, like on from the day-to-day moments. So if I want to spend 5 chapters chewing the scenery, I was not going to sweat it, and I was just going to spend 5 chapters chewing the scenery, and so you see that a lot. And so in book one, after the initial excitement of like of part one wears off, he spends, part two just kind of hanging around town and like living daily life. And a lot of people says it like it's like part one is horror, part two is slice of life, and then part three is like action adventure. So like, and I in one book it like turns into 3 different genres. And that's gonna be, that was my process in book one. And so like for people that liked it, I want to offer more of the same, not like plot wise and maybe not like advancement wise, but more of the same, structure wise. And so like every book that comes out on here, it's gonna have, going forward, it's gonna have action adventure, it's gonna have scary moments, and it's also gonna have like just messing around town, hanging out moments. So that was kind of what I promised myself to do, and that's how it's going. That being said, it's given my publisher a lot of stress, um, because they have a book size that they think is optimal, and my books are much bigger than that. So yeah, so apologies to them. Um, I think like my book one was like 160,000 words, and then like by book three it was like 180, maybe it was 190. It got really big. So, but look, I'm really trying to get it down again. So book four and five should be back down to that comfortable 160. Which is still massive to books outside of the lit RPG space, but I feel like for us in here, it's about average, maybe a little above average. Yeah, about average. Is that a sock monkey? Um, well, since you asked, what is that? This is a donkey. And my wife makes these, and she sells them on Etsy. So, I came here to sell my books, but if you guys are interested in crocheted stuffed animals, I totally have a hookup for you. Yeah, so thanks, Jessica. Hope you love it. Um, so yeah, looks like we have a couple people on here that are just here for the lit RPG and haven't read it yet. So in case you haven't read it yet, Bog Standard Isekai is a book of excellent quality. I called it that. It's a funny story. So I called it that because I was just coming off of the In Another World series, and I I had done a lot of like genre defying tropes in that book and in that series, and so this time I wanted to like really just nail the ordinary like fantasy plot line, the ordinary just fantasy adventure, and just do it really well. And so I called it, bog standard isekai. It's a regular isekai, but then you'll learn in the book, minor spoilers, that in the town he lives in, they kind of have an inside joke. The town is called Hammond's Bog, and to them, bog standard is the very best quality that Hammond's Bog can come out with. So it's excellent quality, and so I called it bog standard isekai because it's doing all the normal isekai story beats, but doing them as well as possible. So just yeah, excellence in writing is what I'm really trying to go for, and you guys read it and judge and see if I actually did that or not. A lot of people seem to enjoy it, and so I'm going to keep writing it forever, for for as long as possible. Um, I don't know if any of you were just coming off of Marsh's podcast. I only saw, or his live stream. I only saw like the last 5 minutes of that, but he's a cool guy. I did an interview with him last week. Yeah, we did. We just sat down and did a podcast, and yeah, I thought it was great. So definitely go check out his YouTube page. I forget what it's called again, but it's great. Um, Mark Shrekwell. He's a interesting guy. I have Bog on my shelf and Golden Merle too. Awesome. Is Bog Standard going to be a series? Yeah, it's already kind of a series. So, book one came out like, gosh, is it almost 2 years ago now? No, it's got to be like just barely over a year, right? Year and a half. Book one came out a year and a half ago, and book two and three are already available. They're available in print, Kindle Unlimited, and audio. So a lot of people are really loving the audio. Oh, thanks. The Rex video interview was so much fun. I'm glad you thought it went well. And I've been writing it like as a serial online too, so you can check it out on my Patreon if you want to read all the latest stuff. I'm actually about 2/3 of the way through book 5 on Patreon, so I like to keep at least one ahead, and then when I have 2 books ahead of Amazon, then I'll release the next one on Amazon. So that way we always have one full book ready for pre-order, so that in case I get struck by a bus, the publisher isn't out for the money of saying that they had a book ready when they didn't. So the release date for book 4 for Amazon is like February. I think we're going to do our best to push that up. Last we talked, we're going to go to January 15th, and I'm going to do my best to finish it even faster than that, and we'll see what we can do about that. But that's the plan for now. So those of you that were dreading the February wait, we're going to go for January. So yeah, it's with your trying to undermine you. He shows up and throws me curveballs, but I appreciate it. It gives me something to talk to. I'm not a person that can like carry a conversation myself, so thank you for the comments. Yeah, keep them coming. Do you have a series after Bog you are thinking on? Yes. While I was writing Bog, I had 3 projects ongoing. I was going to do the next of my other series. I have about 1/3 of that done, which if I ever go back to that, I'll have to start it from scratch. And then I also had a pocket story that working title was The Lord of the Edge, and it's about, a normal, well-adjusted guy who's just like living his life, and he has a cousin coming in from out of town, and he's been asked to like, show his cousin around and keep him out of trouble, and his cousin is a total edgelord, so he is the Lord of the Edge. And so I got like pretty far into that, 20,000 words into that, and it's a blast to write, and I want to come back to it, but it Bog just like took a off so well and like so far above my expectations that I dropped everything to keep writing Bach. But I will go back to that pocket fiction. You will see it someday. And then I have like three other stories that I really like to write someday. I submitted a short story, a science fiction, to the Writers of the Future contest and got an honorable mention. And I really would love to turn that into a full novel someday. You'll see that eventually. And I have a couple other ideas poking around that I love to explore. So I don't know if this is a plans for after Bog, but I think that maybe about time that it's book 6, I'll get more serious about, for every 2 chapters of Bog that I write, I'll write 1 chapter of something else, and we'll see how it goes. Are you a bard IRL? You have a lot of songs in Bog, and that's by intention. I wanted to write a story for all seasons. I wanted my story to have everything that I can chuck in it into the story. And a lot of like the older, fantasy novels, like the trad fantasy novels, they used to always have songs, and we don't do a lot of songs anymore. I think it's because just because you can write prose doesn't mean you can write lyrics. That those skills don't necessarily transfer. But yeah, one of the main things I wanted to do with Bog Standard was to put him, isekai isn't just like a word we use that doesn't mean anything. I wanted him to be translated into an actual other world. And this world needed to be populated with people. And if you've ever met a people, then you know that a people have a culture. They have songs, they have food, they have their own, they have religion and rituals, they have all of these things on their own. Usually what happens in an isekai is that he and we talked about this a little bit in Rex's podcast the other day with Marsh, is that most isekais, even the ones I like, and not to dump on this as a trope, but most of them they go into the other world, and the other world has no culture, and they're so desperate for culture that anything the main character says, they just lap it up no matter what it is. So they're just I think I said the examples, they're just the main character's guys, let me explain Star Wars to you again. They're just eating it up. They're I've never heard something this great. Or they'll sing whatever, 3 songs that the author really likes, and they're just these are our national anthems now. And if it's a Japanese isekai, they will always introduce soy sauce, and the other world, it just takes it by storm. They're this is the greatest thing ever. So, and you know what, that, they do that because it's fun, and I'm not going to knock that because I like that crap too, but there could be a balance. I'd like the world to feel a little bit real, and so I'd like to, give you an idea that when he goes into this world and starts exploring it, it's he's not the only real person there. He's full in a world with other people, and they also all have their own ideas and their own opinions and their own likes and dislikes. So that's nothing. Don't take this as a dig on soy sauce. I think soy sauce is a wonderful building block. I don't eat it plain. We ate that a lot growing up. It would just be rice with soy sauce on it, and I learned to really hate that. But soy sauce is a main ingredient in teriyaki sauce, and teriyaki sauce is a gift from God. So that's just a fact. I think it would play a lot better with Western audiences if they skipped the soy sauce and went straight to teriyaki. It's just soy sauce with onion in it, so it wouldn't be that much of an additional step. If you can ferment these beans and do whatever other weird stuff that happens, then you can add honey to it. Not that hard, guys. Guys, if any of you know any mangakas, how do you say that word, mangakas in Japan, tell them just add the honey and go teriyaki. That's the way to go. I don't think I've ever put just MSG on my food. I don't know what that would be like. You guys are a little bit scaring me. A little bit frightening me, just a bit. Hey, Jodan's here. Speaking of books, that I stayed up till about 11:30 last night reading. Waystspring Wanderer, great novel. Uh, yeah, it's going through it, and it's awesome. What's MSV and other things. Jessica Borgo asks, picked up book one at hardback at Dragon Con. Will the rest be in hardback? I need all of them to be the same. That is a good question. I actually don't know. Um, but when I found that answer, I will announce it on Facebook or whatever for you, because I love the hardback, especially of book one. It's like that's where it becomes real. Like there are a lot of people that can make novels, but when you feel the hardback and you're like, whoa, this is like a real book now. That's a great moment. I was under the impression that they were all hardback and that I had just not gotten around to ordering them for myself yet. So I don't think it actually costs us anything extra to do that. You just have to tell Amazon to do it. That said, I don't really prioritize like physical book sales because they're like less than 1% of my total sales. So I don't keep like my eyes really close on those. Most people, it's about an even split between like ebooks and audio for me. So it's yeah, I don't know too well about that. Um, are animal companions essential to your writing? I think animal companions are essential to any writing. If there's no animal companion, how can you even say that you're writing a fantasy novel? Like that makes no sense. No, I mean, I when I like wrote the first outline for Bog Standard, I didn't know that I was gonna have Marksy to be such like a big presence. But as soon as he was there, I realized that like that was the missing link. And we really needed it because it gives Brin a lot of chances to pet the cat. I don't know if you've heard that. It's like a writing term where like if you have like a really hard-edged and hard-boiled main character, the fear, and this is a Hollywood term, the fear is that like audiences aren't really going to connect with that character. So early in the story, they have him pet a cat because then that humanizes and softens him, and now we're on his side. Anybody that likes animals must be a good person, and I feel like that's a lot of reason that people put animal companions in it. For me, it was just like when I said bog standard isekai, so all the common tropes that got to be in there, and animal companion is a common trope, like it or not. So it had to show up, and there it is. Um, I don't regret it though, because like I said, it gives one of the biggest weaknesses of like the first 5 chapters of Bog Standard Isekai is that he's completely alone, and if your character has an animal companion, he's never alone, and even when he is alone. So I thought it was a good choice. I think it really added something. Speaking as the art director, the hardback is a completely different entity. It has a different material file and cover. Okay, I didn't know that. And that just speaks of all of the awesome work that JD does for us over at Shadow Valley, because she just takes care of it, and it's really a huge relief because like I don't even know where to begin or end with any of that stuff. So, and the art team, which again is just her, is terrific over here. Like really, these guys do an excellent job. If the dog's home, you're not drinking alone. That is a great point. If you're trying to you can excuse all sorts of behaviors like that. That's a very good point. If you had a class from the Bog World, would you go illusionist or something else? Um, Here's the thing about that. I am in love with every class. I It's one of the biggest trials of this project is to not every time I introduce a new character, not to start from scratch and write an entire book based off that character. I wanted to like people made a lot of noise about the Weaver, if you've been there, and without spoiling it too much, I really love the idea of a fantasy novel from the perspective of villager number 7, who is desperately trying not to become part of the main character's tragic backstory. You know, he comes into town looking like he looks and acting like he acts, and she's just like, that is a main character. We have to put a stop to this before we all end up dead. So, that, but even like every main character, it's like, I want to write a bard story, I want to write a rogue story, I want to write uh, a merchant story. Man, I want to write Scion story. Like, I could go 300,000 words on that so easy. Beast Tamer, like so much to do with that. Like Pio, main kind of a side character in one book. Like I and yeah, just all of these. Obviously Mage, and yeah, obviously Illusionist would be great. So like, I want all of them. I would take any of them. Um, but it would be hard to say no to Illusionist as something that I could use like in this world. If it was like me in my normal life plus a class, it would be really hard to say no to Illusionist. That one would be like really compatible with the modern world. A lot of them, like Warrior, like what are you gonna do with Warrior in modern United States? Like I could try and go back and play football, like but like yeah, as a class I could take right now, the sky would be the limit with Illusionist. I would get in a lot of trouble, you guys, a lot of trouble, and I would be, yeah. So, and that now I want to write that book. No, I actually have thought about writing not a whole story, but like just like one of those alt fics, like the Beware of Chicken guy always does, where he just writes 10 chapters of an alternate universe. Would love to write that from the perspective of Hog coming to the United States. I would love to do that, but yeah. I mean, if you've never met any author, they always have 1,000 ideas for every one that they actually have the time to pull off. Brandon Sanderson is talking about this all the time. I feel like every podcast that he does now, he mentions like it's 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 not a matter of like, do I have time to write this? It's a matter of, for every one thing I do write, I'm sacrificing 3 other ideas that will never come to light because I didn't, I prioritized this one above that one. So right now, I'm getting paid for box standard, and you guys are supporting me amazingly. It's been a great ride, and as long as that's the case, I'm gonna keep writing box standard. I'm not gonna write it after it's done. If I get to the ending and it's over, then I will stop there. I will have the intellectual honesty to do that. But the story is far from over. I'm having a blast writing it, so we're gonna keep doing that, even though I have tons of ideas. Sports, actually, yeah, makes sense for the physical classes. Yeah, I haven't read Player Manager yet. Everybody raves about it. Um, but I feel like that was about a coach, I think. Nobody has written the sports lit RPG about a guy that's actually doing the sports. Unless somebody has done that. I bet somebody has done that, and I just haven't heard of it. Railroad comes up with like 300 new fictions a day, something crazy. So like, everything probably has been done, but yeah, that would be cool. I'd be a combat focused jester. I don't know what this I'd be is about there, Jodan. I thought that's what you actually were doing as your day job. Uh, do you write real world people into your books? That is a big fat no, actually. I um, if somebody in the comments thinks that like I've written you into one of my books, then please call me out. I don't think I ever have like had a person in mind, like an other person in mind for any one of my characters. I'm trying to verify that in my head. Um, Once in a while, I will choose like a celebrity, or more often like a podcaster, to get like the cadence of their speech down and to put a voice in my head that's not my own voice, so that I can like realistically write using another person's like language and the way that they talk. I feel like that's important in order to diversify your characters and make it so they're not all just you speaking with sock puppets. But I don't think any of them are based on an actual real life person. Um, Other than me, I I also like I probably talk about this too much. I feel like every character is me a little bit. I mean, obviously that has to be the case. They all came from my brain, but I say all the time that writing is an exercise in empathy. And what I mean by that is that like good writing and able to pull it off, you have to really sit down and think like, what would that actually be like to be that person living that life and going through this right now? And sometimes that hurts to do because you have to like put yourself in their shoes and feel the same suffering that they're feeling and like go through that mentally to in order to bring it into life on the screen. So like every character that has more than 3 sentences in the book, I've really like I am Zilly, I am Myra, I am Brin, I am Davy. Like I am living their life, and how would I feel at this moment? And so like yeah, and with Brin especially, like it's not a secret that he is a programmer. He is like it. In order to make this a book that would be easy for me to write, I just was like, I'm not going to try to differentiate him from myself that much. It's like a lot of times if he has the opinion in the book, that's because that's what I would be saying. I there are certain aspects of his personality that are obviously much different than me and the way I live my life, but yeah, out of anybody in that book, he's probably also the closest. Um, and especially like with knowledge. So everyone's like, he should go and invent computers. And the reason he hasn't done that yet is because I don't really know how computers work, right? I mean, I know the basics and I know like how to program on one, but like if I was sent to a fantasy world, would I be able to build one? Like, of course not. Like, no, not even close. And so like for knowledge, for things that like, will he be able to invent this? If I know it off the top of my head without looking it up, then he can also know it. And if he doesn't, then he doesn't get to know that. And obviously, by book 3, I made some loopholes for myself for that. But that was my rule of thumb to start with. There is also a series called Player Manager. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of, where he's like a coach, and people rave about that book. I haven't read it yet though. Um, what is the best moment you've ever written in a book? Sad, happy, horrific. Lay it on us. Uh, the book that the moment that I surprised myself the most in was the interlude chapter in book 3, and you know the one where I really got down and dirty with like the inner monologue of of I'll just for people that haven't read it yet of a major antagonist. um, that got really psychotic, and that was the one where I was like reading that and I was like, whoa, did that come from me? Because this is really grim stuff. Um, the best moments I think are for every book I have 3 you know highlight scenes. I have 3 what do we call these? Just like I have 3 or 4, maybe more scenes that I've been dreaming of for weeks or months, and that they've been just like living in my brain as this like really cool epic moment that I can daydream about myself or daydream about while I'm like by myself while I'm going on walks. And those moments when and I don't let myself write ahead of time. It's like I get to write that moment when I have properly built it up and foreshadowed it, and where it's appropriate to finally put it into the book. So when I get to write those moments, it's just like so cool for me. So the climax of book 1 where he is fighting the undead. I don't feel like that's too much of a spoiler. As the class that he gets, that was one of those moments that was just like, you know, the different elements that are going on, the, you know, like the freedom, but also the regret of that moment. That was one of those highlight scenes for me that was just so fun to write. The moment where Lumina enters book 1 was another one of those. That was just an absolute pleasure. As far as like me as a consumer, if somebody told me this book is 100% AI written, you know, by that time I would probably skip it. Almost 400,000 words. Somebody told me that their favorite book was 100%, and that was one of the first AI written that I thought maybe I would check it out when I started writing Bystander. Even before I had started writing, that was one of the first things that I had thought of that I was going to try and write to, and the payoff of finally getting to write it was. Let's go into it. I think we get to this place this quickly. AI in my work, especially with like art. I don't think I ever will. You know, way better. I will use AI, and I will defend. And it's a pretty disgusting right now. That's such weird. But the fact that, you know, like I planned it out before I'd ever written like a single word, and it was like, okay, you know, all the stuff I need to do to make that. It's the stuff that I would also feel get comfortable having an assistant was, if that makes sense. Because nobody. So it's like if I had an assistant, say is like I wouldn't be like I don't know AI's output. What's going to happen? The AI itself, it'll make books for me and then myself. I would never do that. And I would never be like moment where okay, this is a brief outline to buy the AI itself. They'll never want to buy details of it. Again, so would not feel comfortable. I'm not feeling worried or insecure, you know. But like, I would be like, hey, I'm having trouble. I am very annoyed though about. I'm not going to say it's the hard about okay for me to write because like Grok, I think that I thought easier than the other AI for something. But then they'll put it up or they'll get like free or something, or if, you know, from people that just start buying every grade and I need to check while writing the story, you know, didn't check the summary, a little too materialistic. You know, they read the first chapter and be like, fight monster, gain level, start gain resources, any other cells. But you know, they made 30 cents on that, and if they do that like 1,000 times a day, some data. Those guys are disgusting, and I hate the fact that I actually, you know, like I forgot to do it, and I feel like I did it in a way that I could be proud of. That was you know, definitely a highlight of, you know, as a writer, getting to that moment. I love your MC progression and pacing. Did you get pushback from people who weren't willing to see if you were building a foundation and wanted Super Brin a week after he arrived? Yeah, 100%. Yeah. All my earliest like negative reviews were about that very thing. Like they're like, this is, so, you know, even after book 1, he hasn't really progressed that far, and that offended a lot of people. You know, but yeah, I'm not gonna lie, but 2 things: you can't really please everybody. You know, any choice you make like is gonna attract some people, and it's going to push other people away. I wanted to write a story where I'm building a really, really wide foundation, and so I needed to build a world where there's a lot of room to grow and slowly and over time. And so if I had Brin be the max level superhero at the end of book 1, then book 2 is going to be boring. And the reason that I know that is because a lot of lit RPG have the main character be the max level superhero at the end of book 1. And then, you know, by book 5, what are they doing? They're just like messing around in the forest. They're doing nothing. And so to build that wide foundation, that means that like a lot of things had to be moving slower than a lot of people kind of expected. And yeah, I got some pushback from that, and it was fine. People can have their opinions. I think that the people that stuck around were the people that really appreciated that I was like utilizing restraint. People can tell when you're being intentional, when you're, you know, people can tell quality. And so I feel like for whatever sacrifices I made, I gained just as much. Yep. So yeah, that's all I got. Excuse me for a sec. All right. what's your plan for your author career from here? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish, and how are you getting there? Right now, I am really enjoying the success, and I'm trying not to get into my own brain too much. Bog Standard is like doing good enough that I can keep writing it without worries that I'm wasting my time, and that's an awesome place to be. And again, thank you to all my amazing readers. It's a comfortable place to be. If I'm doing enough that it's worth my time. Long term, obviously, everybody would love to be a Matt Dinniman. Everybody would love to, write a He Who Fights with Monsters, and so the series after the Bog, or maybe the series that I write alongside Bog, maybe it'll knock it out of the park, and I will go full time. If I start making enough money that it doesn't make sense for me to keep my day job, then I won't keep my day job, and I'll write full time, and you'll see more writing from me. As it is, though, my day job is really comfortable, and it's really not stressful at all, and so it would have to be a real blockbuster success to make it into there. But long term, there is a day that even if I keep going at the current pace, that I'll be able to retire, and so I will keep writing until that date. This is the worst case scenario. I'll retire when that happens, and then I'll write full time. But yeah, I think I'm pretty much a lifetime writer at this point. Are you worried about your work being used to train AI models? Would it change your opinion if you were compensated for it? I think that my work being used to train AI models is an unfortunate inevitability. It's like I never gave people permission to put my book up on torrents and pirate it. And I also don't worry myself too much that that's happening. Obviously, I wrote this, I deserve to get paid for it if you're consuming it, the fair is fair. But since there's no realistic way for me to stop it, then I don't let it keep me up at night. You know what I mean? And, if people are reading my book now as a broke teenager who don't have their own credit card and can't buy ebooks, I'll still be writing in 10 years. Maybe in 10 years they will go back and they'll start supporting me as a customer. So I'm not going to write anybody off right now. So how that relates to AI, it's so easy for these people to just grab, everything on Kindle Unlimited and turn it all into a large language model and start making books off of that. And it's unfortunate that that's pretty much an inevitability that this happened, but what can you do? Do I want to be compensated for it? No, because if they're going to go to the trouble of compensating for me for it, then I'd rather just say, hey, how about instead of that, you just don't take it at all? If I have the choice, I'm going to say no, because there's only one Miles English right now, and I don't want 100,000 knockoff Miles Englishes diluting my work. If you want books written by me, that's awesome. I exist to serve that need, but I don't want someone else serving that need, even if they've been trained on my work, someone or something. So no, I don't want you guys to write books in my voice from necromantic machines. Asking if they're a cop. They have to tell you, are you a cop? You have to tell me. Legally speaking, and I know this is true, you have to tell me if you're a cop. I have to tell me. Am I giving legal sounding answers? I don't know. I feel like this is just my opinion. What color is the box? Yeah, I'll need a little more details on that. I do not know. Oh, okay. You guys have questions about Gray Grayson, don't you? don't worry. Box Stander Isekai will rise again. And that really, you're probably wondering, why didn't you drop everything and only do Box Stander? And the reason is because it's too good of an idea, and the concept is just like too mighty that I don't feel worthy to write it yet. But you will get some more. No, this was an April Fool's prank where I said that I'm going to stop writing Bog Standard and I'm going to start writing Box Standard. And where that came from, I don't know if I've shared this anywhere. So inside scoop for the people that have stuck around this long. My daughter, who was like 6 or 7 at the time, it might have been long ago enough that this was 6. She had been hearing me talking about my book for so long now. And one day, I was like, yeah, the character in my novel, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, is that the story about the man who stands on the box? And no. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, the Box Standard. And like, all this time she'd been hearing me say Bog Standard, and she was hearing Box Standard. She literally thought that I was writing a story about a guy who stands on boxes. And so, obviously, when you have that happen, you have to make it happen. So we made an April Fool's chapter about it. And yeah, we're going to do that every year now. And maybe, hopefully, more than once a year, because I've had a blast with it. The box is... No, you know what? That'd be spoilers. You can read about it when he finds his box. It's too much. It's too much spoilers for you guys right now. I do not want to read a story about characters and grow to love them from anything or anyone that doesn't have the capacity to love and hurt. You know what? There's something in that. When you listen to AI music and there's like a solo vocalist and they're really killing it, and you can like feel the emotions and like the passion in their voice, and you can hear all the hurt and like all the, and you're like, hold on, this is not a person. This is like a synthesized machine. Like, you lose a part of your soul when that happens, It's like, it's clearly art because it's clearly doing something. But like, if it's art, then who is the artist? It's you can't point to just one person because it's this weird amalgamation. So like, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing that's happening to us. I definitely enjoy your Bog Standard series. Thank you, BJ Wood. What made you decide that magic is like lawyering in Bog? Yeah, I think that I was just trying to think of like, what is like the most diabolically evil thing that exists in human civilization, and let's turn that into magic. No, I don't know. It's because I loved, hey, there's another one of my hero scenes. I loved the idea, and I don't know where I got this, that a conversation between a wizard and a dragon would be a magical conversation, and it would be, punctuated with lightning bolts and fireballs, and that speaking the language of magic would make real things happen, but at the same time, it would be a real dialogue. It would be communication, and you're communicating by putting things, summoning like real things into the world. So that was the idea that like really excited me about the language and the weird. And so like, it naturally follows then that people who professionally use words to make arguments would be overpowered in that setting. And so therefore lawyers need to be illegal. So yeah, that's kind of the evolution. A lot of these concepts were grown more than like one day I sat down and decided, okay, today I need to have a magic system. It was like, I started with like, okay, the magic is lit RPG magic. If you have the fireball thrower class, you can throw fireballs. And then like, as an extension from that, I'm like, okay, but like, where are these fireballs coming from? And like, and what would it be like to have the fireball thrower class? And when I, when I dig down and start to like draw conclusions from the data that I already put in the novels, then like you kind of grow a magic system on top of that. And that's kind of where these things came from. I think that's kind of stuff is really cool. I need my authors and artists to pass the Blade Runner replicant test. It's been so long since I watched Blade Runner that I only kind of remember that replicants are like robot clones, something like that. Sorry, I'm a terrible sci-fi knower. Yeah, it looks like I'm running to the end of my time. But thanks so much for everybody leaving comments. You gave me something to talk about, which I was really afraid I wouldn't have. So yeah, I'm just gonna plug myself, and then I'll get off for whoever's next on the Lit RPG live marathon. Yeah, if you're looking for your next read, seriously, check out Bog Standard Isekai. It's all the formats. I haven't said this yet. I feel like I always need to say this. The audio is just absolutely fantastic. We got Jonathan McLean, and he is like a serious work of art. That man just like put so much life into these books that it just it puts a smile on my face every time I think about it. Like they are so good. So yeah, definitely check that out. Check out everything he's ever written, everything he's ever voiced. Like his Meet Your Maker is hilarious. But yeah, he did a great job. So check out the audio. My old series, if you want to hear like what I was working on when I was inspired to start writing Bog, go check out the In Another World series. It's about a man who is isekai from a fantasy world into our world. So it's an urban fantasy. It's still a lit RPG. And yeah, Amazon, Patreon, wherever books are sold. Next audio for Bog Standard release date. We are going to do them all on the same day. So when book 4 comes out on print, it'll come out on audio and on ebooks as well. And please don't shoot me if I'm wrong. I think it's January 15th. I think that's the day we're moving it up towards. But I'm going to work with my publisher and get that out earlier than the February date you're seeing on Amazon right now. And I think that's all we have time for. Thanks so much, you guys. This was really cool.